Good evening as I record this here on August 22nd for our devotion for reading through the Bible in a year in the one-year Bible. And on this August 22nd, we're looking at Job chapter 4 verse 1 through 7 verse 21. The first of Job's friends to speak is Eliphaz. He calls Job impatient. He asks, who that was innocent ever perished? Imagine saying that to someone who lost many members in their family. He says that those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. In a rather strange incident, he says that he heard a whisper and some sort of spirit glided past his face. And he was filled with dread, and it asked, can mortal man be in the right before God? Can a man be pure before his maker? So the implication is Job now has done something to deserve all of the things that are happening. God is directly punishing him for his sins, according to Eliphaz. As chapter 5 begins, Eliphaz says that vexation kills the fool and jealousy slays the simple. Then he describes the many disastrous ways this happens. One famous quote is found in verse 7, man is born to trouble as the sparks fly upward. Eliphaz says that if it were him, he would seek God and commit his cause to God. I can imagine Job might have thought, well, why didn't I ever think of that? Indeed, Eliphaz considers the one God reproves blessed, so one ought not despise the discipline of the Almighty. God wounds, Eliphaz says, but he binds up. He shatters, but his hands heal. So if Job would only commit his cause to God, then things would work out at last. As you know, things don't always happen that way. What Eliphaz says sounds so great at first glance, but when you think about it, it starts to fall apart a little bit. In chapters 6 and 7, then, we see Job's response. Looking at chapter 6, Job responds and says that his vexation is heavier than the sands of the sea, and his words have been rash. Job admits it. The terrors of God, he says, are arrayed against him. And the one thing he asks is that God would crush him. This would be his comfort, that even in immense pain, he had not denied the words of the Holy One. But as he looks at himself, he has no hope of saving himself. His strength cannot do it. So Job rebukes his friends for withholding kindness from him. Really, it started from the get-go, and they were just kind of horrified to see him. Imagine having to deal with that reaction. Job calls this behavior forsaking the fear of the Almighty. His friends stood by him when things were good, but now they accuse him when trouble hits. Yet when it comes to accusations, we see Job can give as good as he gets. Then as we get to chapter 7, Job directs his speech toward God. Man's service on the earth is hard, Job says. The night is long for him, and he is full of tossing until the dawn. His flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. Quite a poetic image, and vivid at that. His skin hardens, he says, then breaks out in sores again. His days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and come to their end without hope. He does ask God to remember that his life is a mere breath, but he feels like he will never again see anything good. Job continues to bring his complaint to God. He even asks to be left alone. He asks, what is man that you make so much of him and that you set your heart on him? Visit him every morning and test him every moment. Notice that sounds very much like Psalm 8, and it's kind of a ongoing question, which came first, this or the psalm? if Job is parroting it or if the psalm kind of sets it straight. I guess we'll have to wait till heaven to find out. Then Job says, "How long will you not look away from me, nor leave me alone till I swallow my spit?" Finally, Job asks why God doesn't pardon his transgressions and take away his iniquity. So Job admits his sinfulness. He doesn't pretend like he's not sinful. He will lie in the earth, Job says, and God will seek him, but Job won't be there anymore. Well, what do we make of all of that? Well, as we look at Job, it's very realistic, of course, because this is what happens. His thoughts are as violent as the sieve of testing in which God has permitted Satan to shake him. He appeals to God to make his agony endurable by making it somehow meaningful. Otherwise, let him show pity by bringing Job to death. Job's pain has the authenticity of all who have been injured in their wrestling with God. If Job seems defiant, it is the daring of faith that is shining through. All Job has known about God, he still believes. But God's inexplicable ways leave his mind perplexed to the breaking point. Job is in the right. He is not being punished as his friends assume. We know that because of the beginning of the book of Job, but Job and his friends don't know that. But Job does know that God is watching with Job does not know that God is watching with silent compassion and admiration until the test is completed. And, well, I won't give away too much of the ending of the book of Job, but maybe you know, things are not ultimately as dark as they seem. Well, may God be with you.